Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to an evening that we're calling Caregiving Connections. It's meant to be an evening for seniors and their families and caregivers to come together. Tonight, we have several presentations for you, tabletop displays from agencies across York Region, and our goal is to let you know of some of the programs and services and agencies that are in our community to help people. This project is being funded, and we thank the Ontario government for helping us do this project. My name is Mary Bart, and I am Chair of Caregiving Matters, and we are co-hosting this event with Chats. I'd like to briefly go through the agenda for what we're doing tonight. I'm doing the introductory comments. Then I will tell you a little bit about our charity. Linda will talk about Chats. Each of the tabletop displays will have an opportunity to tell you about their programs and services. Then we will go to a program called Caregiver Heroes, and it's a program where we give gifts away to family caregivers and wrap it up. So a little bit about us. We are called Caregiving Matters. We are a registered Canadian charity, but we're a little bit different. We are an internet-based charity, which means at least 90% of what we do leverages technologies. And so, for example, tonight, you see that we are filming this. So later, in a couple of months, all of the videos and all of the presentations will be on our website. So by using technology, we believe we are a sustainable charity that reaches more people through the internet. A little bit about me. I was my mom and dad's principal caregiver for 10 years. That's a picture of them pretending to be wild and free on a scooter. My dad died of cancer and my mom died of dementia. And I help manage their care and property, and I really understand what it's like to be a family caregiver. And for those who are family caregivers, I'm sure you'll agree when I say many days I was honored to do what I did, and many days I went out of my mind. And that's the reality of caregiving. So as my parents had declining health, I knew my caregiving days eventually would come to an end. And so I changed my life. And I gave it a new purpose after they died, and I started this charity. I thought that there would be other family caregivers who could benefit from what we do. So that's my little story. Just a little bit about what we do, keeping in mind that we are mostly web-based. We have all kinds of interesting articles and blogs on our site. We have links and access to resources. We do a lot of special projects. And when I say special projects, it means that we are doing videos, we are doing podcasts, webinars, all kinds of ways to reach family caregivers, because it's hard for family caregivers to come out to actual events. So if we can use technology to reach them, that's even better. Some of the projects that we have on our website are dealing with elder abuses, all kinds of projects around caregiver health and balance and burnout, projects around wellness, projects for disabled seniors. We have a whole series on how to keep them well and healthy, and a lot of projects dealing with legal and financial issues for caregivers, because that's real. So what I want to do is just give you one quick example of one of the projects that we have that is on our site, and it's called the Power of Attorney Project. Does anybody think that's a good title for a project? It's pretty real, right? So just a little bit about it. It is a federally funded project that we got from the federal government, and it's all about public education. So within that, if you go to our website, you will see the workshops that we have done, the webinars, the videos, and the podcasts. And literally, we have had upwards of 50 to 60 professionals, lawyers, palliative care doctors, social workers, the Ontario Police, accountants, financial planners, social workers. They have all volunteered to be part of this project. And it was a magnificent effort of people saying, power of attorney is important, but when we had people from all these different disciplines, they all come at it at a different angle. So the umbrella is power of attorney, but as I described to you a little bit about it, it was an interesting exercise to see what different lawyers have to say about this topic, or different doctors, or different social workers. It was a very interesting project, and it's all live on our site. Most importantly, it is not meant to be a substitute for getting personalized legal, financial, or social advice. It really is meant for families to be able to start to have conversations within families on this difficult topic, and then go out to the expert in your local area who can help you through the part of power of attorney that you're struggling with. So why did we pick this topic? Well, first of all, it's a pretty tough topic. It's not one that's often spoken of, and we think it should be. We think it needs more attention within the public and within families. And when you are in the role, if you are named in someone's power of attorney document, you know it's a tough job. It is not an easy thing to do. So our goal is very simple: public education and encouraging families to have conversations, and then take it one step further and go meet with their local experts. So our goal with this is to have families have their questions addressed, increase their understanding about power of attorney issues, develop some skills and strategies to deal with family issues, and it helps deal with some of the complex issues of aging. So there again, 90% of what we do within this project is all on our website. It's a 2-year project, and through the 2 years is how we have developed the videos and the podcasts. And the benefit of it is families can go to our site whenever they want, whenever they have the time and energy to listen and learn. It's there. We really want to make this project real for families, because when you are in this role as named in someone's documents, it's very real. We talk about care issues, property issues, some of the troubles that families can get into around family dynamics, and that's very real. We talk about real life issues, and believe me, there is no sugarcoating on any of these topics. It's real life stuff. Here's one that one lady said to me: "Did you give your greedy daughter power of attorney too?" That's real life. Families deal with this all the time. Or if you're in the role, "I never knew that this could be so hard and so difficult." So I'd like to give you just a few examples of the kinds of people who volunteered their time to join our project. These are people who helped us deal with some of the moral and ethical issues, some of the issues around respecting wishes, values, and belief. That's a real big term in power of attorney issues. Talked about end-of-life conversations, dealing with some of the stresses and family fights and guilt around this whole topic. And it does indeed cause the breakup of some families. We also talk about some of the care issues, some of the options for care and the costs for care, and extended care or long-term care insurance. Legal issues. Well, it's a bottomless pit of legal issues as far as I'm concerned. We talk about that. We talk about elder abuse, specifically financial, because that's very important. Talk about capacity. We talk about dealing with the CRA in terms of how do you actually do these filings and filling in the disability tax credit forms, and what happens if mommy has dementia and you forget to do her annual returns, and some of the nasty things that can happen. We talk a lot about litigation. The lawyers who are in the program are all estate litigators, and they give great advice on how to avoid going to see them, and the importance of record keeping, and that's the accounting side, to keep all the financials straight. So it was a wonderful social network that we created. We went out to the legal, financial, and care communities and said, "We're doing this project. Would you like to join us?" And overwhelmingly, the response from across the country was astounding. And it didn't take long for us to actually get calls from lawyers to say, I've heard about your project. Can I join in? That was kind of fun. And it was promoted in lots of magazines and newspapers and other people's sites. So one of the things that you'll see on our website is 6 videos. We had a full day of presentations in King City, and we had 3 lawyers. They were talking about some of the laws around power of attorney and some of the problems that they see. We talked about some of the care issues around power of attorney. We had a man talking about how to avoid litigation and estate litigation. And we had the Ontario Provincial Police talking about some of their power of attorney investigations. So if you go to our site, you will see videos of all of these presenters. We did podcasts. They are basically taped telephone interviews. So I would be on the phone, and a lawyer or a doctor or social worker would be on the other end, and we would have a conversation. There are at least 40 of those on our website, and it features the expert with links to their sites, and it's a great array of topics. So some of our experts who volunteered were lawyers, accountants, the police, palliative care doctors, social workers, authors, funeral directors, nurses, downsizing experts, assisted living people, and financial planners. And I put that up there because at some point in the journey through the power of attorney issues within your family, my bet is you will deal with many of those people. And they all have a different perspective, and it's interesting to see what they all have to say. So these podcasts, they all picked the topics, and then we had the conversation. So it's all driven by the experts, and they had a wide range of topics. And I'd like to just give you a brief teaser of what's on our site. First one is Mark Handelman. He is an unbelievably smart, kind lawyer. It's almost funny to say that in the same words, but he is. He has litigated more end-of-life cases than any lawyer in Canada. So just imagine what he has seen in his practice. He phoned me and he said, Mary, I would love to be part of your project. And he talked about last rites, the dignity of a good death. And what he says in our conversation, it just took my breath away because he is so smart and he brings really tough issues down to what lay people can understand. He talked about advance directives, what they are, what you need to do to have them, how to have those family conversations, and what happens when you don't have them. So there's one example of an extraordinary lawyer who joined our project. Here's an accountant, Linda. She has written a book called Let the Record Show, and it's all about how important the accounting is within the power of attorney. So we spoke at length about why to keep records and how records are important and how records can break families up and how records can keep families together. So there's a little bit of a lawyer. Now there's an accountant who's got her whole other perspective on this topic. Leslie Raymond, she's with the Ontario Provincial Police, and she wanted to talk about the elder abuses that they see and how to prevent them and how to deal with elder abuses around power of attorney. So that's a really good topic too. Michael Gordon, he's the head of palliative care at Baycrest. So he is a palliative care doctor. He is an author, and he is also a professor at U of T. And he wanted to talk about end-of-life decisions, rights versus duties. And he has an interesting way of looking at people who are named in power of attorney documents and what their roles are and what they think their roles are and what their legal roles are. So he has a whole other viewpoint. He comes at this topic with a medical background. Very interesting to hear what he says. Stephen Benmore, he's a lawyer. He phoned me and he said, Mary, I've heard about your project and I'd like to contribute. And I said, thank you. What would you like to talk about? He wanted to talk about predatory marriages with seniors. I said, oh, well, that's pretty real. Absolutely, we'll do a podcast around that. So in our conversation, he talks about how people take advantage of older people who might be lonely and vulnerable to all kinds of relationships. He speaks to some of the legal issues around marriage and separation and divorce, and what happens if you get married a second time and what happens to your will. He explains it all so clearly. And I was thrilled when he said, I want to talk about this topic. Normally, when you would go to a presentation, you wouldn't hear that come up. But as I said, we tried to create as many real-life topics without sugarcoating anything. And the experts, they just throw these wonderful ideas at us. Shirley Roberts, she is an author, and she wrote a book called Doris Inc., and she brings a business perspective to caregiving. She wanted to talk about how to excel as an attorney for personal care. So she talked about advocating for the person that you're caring for and how to take care of yourself, keeping some harmony within the family. So she brings more of a human perspective to the care issues. Mary Ellis, she's a lawyer from Kingston, Ontario, and she wanted to talk about what are the obligations under the Ontario law for power of attorney issues, how you deal with spending that person's money, charitable donations, dealing with tax returns, probate, selling somebody's home and assets. She's a real firecracker, and we were thrilled to have her. She has a special designation from the Ontario government on estate planning and power of attorney. And there again, she volunteered to join our project. Gord, he's with the Scotiabank, and he wanted to talk about what happens when you walk into the bank for the first time, holding power of attorney documents, and some of the surprises that you encounter when working with a bank. And apparently there's all kinds of different power of attorneys forms when you walk into a bank. And he said, here's what happens, here's what people's expectations are, and here's how we have to educate them about walking into the bank. People sometimes come in all high and mighty, and they don't leave so high and mighty. So it's all public education. And Karen Henderson, she talks about the value of having long-term care insurance in case something goes wrong, why women especially need to think about having some long-term care insurance, talk about the onslaught of dementia and how that will affect most of our lives and the financial issues around it. And Tim, he's an estate litigator. He wanted to talk about avoiding disputes and litigation. So his practice circles around litigation, and he wanted to share some of his experiences of how people get into trouble and how they could have not gotten into trouble by doing some of the things that he did. So we're really trying to say to Canadians, we all need to be more educated about this topic. I encourage you to go to our site, look through the list of podcasts that we have. Some will interest you, some won't, but that's fine. And watch the videos, because we're really trying to say, join this conversation and let's get talking about power of attorney things.